Welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And man, what a disappointing final for Philadelphia Union 2 as they fall to North Texas by a score of 3-2. And it's a late one here, late live stream here on YouTube. We had a live episode last night, and I appreciate every single person who showed up for that. And I'd be a little bit shocked if we got close to 95 people live, but maybe something changes. But regardless, we're here, and I'll go ahead and bring in Jose Nunez. I mean, a lot to discuss from that game. I think you look at it, the perfect start that you could ask for the Philadelphia Union, and then it all went downhill from there. But Jose, it is 11:41. We made these people wait. We initially said 11 o'clock. Marlon came into his press conference late, and then Marlon, like Marlon always does, gives long-winded answers, and here we are at 11:41 at night. How are you doing?
I'm okay, man, and I'm gutted for, I think it's fair to say, kids, right? Barring 3 or 4 of those guys who are over drinking age at best, maybe. Gutted for them, but I just want to clarify before anybody takes you out of context there, Todd. Like, when we say long-winded for Marlon, they're incredibly thoughtful answers that he just really expands on, and it's actually super refreshing for people like us who dissect and really go into these answers and try to pick and pick apart and figure out what he's actually saying. Not that he's hiding messaging or anything like that, but his answers are fantastic. So I just wanted to save you from any type of criticism from people there. But it's true. Marlon gives some very, very thoughtful, long answers. And no, we did not expect to be going on so close to midnight and ultimately answering some questions, but also, while answering some questions, maybe posing even bigger questions that we didn't think about. So, yeah, I don't know where you want to start with this, but obviously a disappointing night all around for this team.
Yeah, and I appreciate you looking out for me there. I think I've said it in the past before, the last couple episodes, whenever I played Marlon clips. I appreciate it, right? We have a clip just to give you guys a heads up that's about 4 minutes long, and I enjoy those because, one, when I'm doing a solo show, it gives me time to go ahead, sneeze, get a drink, whatever I need to do during that time. And so it's like, please talk as long as you need to, Marlon. Talk as long as you need to, Jim Curtin. Whoever is giving me the soundbite that I'm playing, talk as long as you want. So, but you're right. I mean, his questions are always so well thought out, and I'm going to do it. And even though I don't want to do it, I'll pat myself on the back for asking him a question last week, just comparing winning the Eastern Conference trophy to the success he had at West Virginia. And he was a little bit caught off guard from that answer. And yeah, it really made him think. And same thing happened tonight with your question to Marlon. And like you said, that's what we appreciate in the media. We love those long answers that are thoughtful and gets good traction on social media. And I saw a couple of comments on social media for people asking where could they find Marlon's press conference. And unfortunately, I mean, the Union do such a good job live streaming press conferences, but because the game was in North Texas, I guess they didn't have the setup or whatever to live stream it. I don't know, but regardless, I mean, we'll play some clips from that press conference tonight. But yeah, you asked where to start, and I think that's probably going to be the Union blowing a 2-goal lead and lose 3-2. And you look, I mean, the first 18 minutes of this game, they go up 2-0. You get a goal from Marcus Anderson. You get a goal from Eddie Davis. And the conversation you and I were having with Kyle and Jillian was like, man, we haven't seen Eddie get on the score sheet in a while, and he gets a goal today. And it's a fantastic goal where Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, he wins the ball back, and they progress the ball forward. They lose the ball, but then the Union's press wins it on the right touchline. Kevin Sullivan winds up with the ball, plays it out to the left-hand side to David Vazquez. Vazquez plays a forward ball into Eddie Davis, and the ball gets miscleared by the North Texas defender. Eddie's there to pick it up, and then Texas do a good job to get defenders back, and it's good footwork there by Eddie, and it's a left-footed strike. But yeah, I mean, Union 2 couldn't have asked for a better start. I mean, 1 minute into this game, CJ Olney lets a shot go. It's a misplay in the back from North Texas, and Marcus Anderson's leading the charge for the Union. has CJ Olney to his left, and it's a good find there. And I think if you would have told fans that, yeah, it would have been North Texas starting this game slow, I think fans would have said, "Now you're crazy." But the Union too took advantage of the opportunities given to them by North Texas in this game, and credit has to be given to North Texas for the adjustments they made in the second half. That Logan Farrington was kept quiet, and I think Frankie Westfield. I mean, the whole Union Two team had a really good first half, and it's like, okay, this is really good. But as they say, two goal leads, the worst lead in soccer. I look at somebody like Salih, 18-year-old Romanian winger who FC Dallas, who if fans aren't aware of who North Texas is, North Texas is the second team for FC Dallas. Yeah, FC Dallas see a bright future in Salih. Like I said, 18 years old, winger, and uh, he was kept quiet, but then he winds up getting a goal in this game too. And it's all the big hitters in this game for North Texas that take a hold of the game in the second half with Solly Farrington and then Padrino, or what was it? Padrino? Yeah, the Brazilian. I mean, big players make big plays and big moments, and unfortunately for Union too, they just didn't have those big moments in the second half.
Yeah, I mean it's also cliche to say, right? A tale of two halves, and that's exactly what it was too, right? Where it honestly felt as the first half progressed that it was going to be more or closer or more aligned to what the Columbus game was in terms of just very dominant, not really letting them breathe, and North Texas not finding a way to get a Farrington Salih involved in this match, but ultimately, and credit where it's due, tactically, what North Texas did, whether it's tactically or genuinely, coach was it Grabini? I can't remember his last name. Grabbing his players at halftime, shaking the shit out of them, and saying, "Wake up! You're better than this." And ultimately, them playing up to snuff and carrying out the game plan that they probably had from the beginning of the first half. So, yeah, it's disappointing. It really is. But it also begs the question, at what point or how far can a group of 18-year-olds take you when they're playing against 21, 22-year-olds and probably some older guys that sort of filter their way into this league and to these different teams in the playoffs. I hate to say that maybe this team overachieved, but ultimately the best that they could, and ultimately this is for a lot of them that I think will be part of a Union senior team at some point or another, whether they are graduated and put on the bench for many, many games, or much like the McGlinns and the Harriels, graduate and then make their way to the first team. This is such a big learning experience in terms of meeting this adversity and dealing with it, and how they come out of it will be really, really fascinating.
No, I think if you ask, I mean, Marlon LeBlanc said it the last couple of press conferences where, yeah, they've overachieved expectations, and nobody expected them to beat Columbus Crew last week, and they blank them at home 4-0. And I talked to Nick Pariano and Marcus Anderson and said, look, you guys are the underdogs. And Marcus basically said, we were the underdogs against Columbus, and we don't care. We're just going to go out here. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, and play our game. And yeah, I mean, it's the perfect start. You go up 2 goals, and man, you look at how the second half was. I mean, here's the stats for you: 8 shots in the first half for Union Two, compared to 4 shots for North Texas. 4 of those were on target for Union, 1 on target for North Texas. In the second half, Union Two were outshot 7-2. 4 on target, 1 on target for Union Two. I mean, it's the tale of two halves, like you said there. And yeah, ultimately, whether you want to say tactically or not, I mean, this is a tough team. This is a North Texas team who, prior to the playoffs, were one of the highest scoring teams in the league. I think they had 64 goals or 56 goals. Sorry, tied second highest at 56 goals. They had the least fewest goals conceded in the league at 32, and then 62 points, led the league in points. And Yeah, I mean, this is a team that wasn't going to be a cakewalk by any means. And coming into this match, North Texas had won 16 straight games, and I know this isn't where they play their home games technically, but for an occasion when you're playing for a trophy, you move it to a actual soccer venue, and that's what they did. They played at the home of FC Dallas Toyota Stadium, and I think those fans that showed up for North Texas were a little bit shell shocked to see this team be dominant all season long, and they go down 2-0. And yeah, unfortunately for Union 2, they couldn't get the job done. So I'll go ahead and start the first comment, or sorry, the soundbite that we have from Marlon LeBlanc here, asking, what went wrong in the second half of this game, where they, as we all know, they play a 4-4-2 diamond, and then they switch to a 4-4-2 flat. And uh-oh. I thought I had. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and so they switched to the 4-4-2, 4-2-2 with a double pivot. And Marlon Blanc basically talked about switching formations and what went right, what went wrong, and all in between.
Yeah, we had no access really to the ball a whole lot once Marcus came out, and the idea was just to kind of solidify with them pushing the extra numbers higher. They started with Sainty really deep in the beginning of the game and started to push them up into the midfield, and made things really difficult for us when they were able to get the ball into the center of the field and then hit switches. So we tried to get a little bit of an extra layer of protection in front of our center backs to try and slow that down a little bit. Unfortunately, just started turning the ball over a little bit too much. The kids played as hard as they could. If I could reverse it and do it over again, not going to have to look it back. We've trusted these guys in these kind of moments all season long. Trying to go with changing from the diamond to double six was theoretically should stabilize us a little bit against them pushing the extra numbers forward. But we just didn't do a great job of holding on to the ball when we did win it.
Yeah, one thing that was actually telling too, and you and I were both at the game against Columbus last weekend, where it was really, really apparent that the Union 2 were attacking the left side of the field really, really heavy, whether that be CJ Olney, whether that be Kevin Sullivan. But Frankie Westfield at times was higher than both of those players on the left side of the field. And we saw Frankie actually sit pretty deep majority of this game, and especially in the second half, where he couldn't get onto the ball at nearly as much as he did last weekend against Columbus. And looking at his touches here, 53. He had 87, I think, last week, 84, something like that. Led the team in touches. And yeah, I think part of it was North Texas knew that this guy is going to cause us chaos, with whether it be CJ Oni, whether it be Kevin Sullivan on the left-hand side of the field. And let's go ahead and, make sure he's not touching the ball in areas that can hurt us. And let's make sure that he's pinned back. And so, yeah, I mean, what Marlon said makes sense. That you want to put a double pivot there to protect the back line and get more control of the game and help the passing out and whatnot. But yeah, that just wasn't the case in the second half. And yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, there's a team that's fought so hard all season long, and I don't want to spoil Marlon's answer to your question, but he's like, man, if you guys could see what we went through multiple times behind the scenes, you guys maybe would look at it a little bit differently. And yeah, I mean, there's a team that gave it their all, and to see the fans come on board and cheer these guys on in the playoffs, it was a good sight to see, and see fans travel for this game and see media. Kyle and Jillian, I know, went down there for the Union. I mean, for a second team game, it's pretty impressive, but yeah, the results on the field in the second half here was definitely disappointing.
To Marlon's point, it's so interesting. I wish I could rewatch a whole game. I can't. We can't. The best we get is the 90 minutes and 15, which is totally fine, but not enough for us to really digest this game. But I really want to watch what this team is like with Marcus on, because it must be so wildly different that I take it for granted. Because in watching the second half, the way that the ball would bounce and the Frankie Westfields of the world and the Wetzels of the world and really anybody, I know Rojas started doing it too as well, where they're looking for that outlet, but most of those passes were just pissing the ball away, right? And in terms of just, yeah, sure, clearing it and releasing the pressure. But at some point, that's going to wear thin, and Texas is going to pick it up, right, and figure it out. Where I think it's exactly what happened the second half. So rather than finding that easy pass in the middle, finding a Pariano to sort of start linking up play a little bit more, especially with the double pivot, they just don't do that, and they're trying to skip one layer of progression to try to move it along, and ultimately I think it's what undid them, because as soon as they would get the ball, they started to unravel again in terms of giving it away. So
Panicking a little bit.
yeah, panicking, right? And in terms, and I know we've had a group chat going during the match, and it did feel like it was a please don't mess up and I won't mess up type of understanding between the players, right? Like, come on, let's just not mess up and get through this. And sitting on a 2-0 lead with 45 minutes to go completely mentally undid them. And again, let's not lose sight that yes, they're professionals. Most of them are professionals, obviously some amateur players and I think some soon to be first team contracts. But nonetheless, they're still teenagers who are going through their formative years trying to figure out how to play the sport. So for what it's worth, it's such a disappointing result and PTSD of, obviously what 2022 was in a way.
Yeah, so the red card in the 75th minute with Olwethu Makhanya. So by the time he gets sent off, it's 2-2 at that point. I don't think that made. I mean, obviously they scored when the Union were down to 10 men, but I mean the Union were playing poorly even before that red card. And so for me, I know I said in our group chat that I don't think that red card made a huge difference just because of how poor they were in the second half. And Valerie chimed in and said, it's crazy just the difference of the two halves. And I think, yeah, that's how a lot of fans would obviously feel. I mean, to see just a completely different team and to see them just, not really attack, sit deep, which isn't what this team's based on. I mean, how many times did we see in the first half where they're just trying to hit counterattacks? I mean, Neil Pierre, oh my God, unbelievable performance. I mean, every time that he got on the ball and he played a long ball, I said, can this guy just not play a bad long pass? I mean, he was all over the field. And then there was a play too where he was pushed up high in Dallas's defensive half of the field and he sprints all the way back, wins the ball back and draws the foul. I mean, Neil Pierre had a fantastic game, and it's crazy when you look at his performance and say, wow, he was on the field when the Union gave up 3 goals. And yeah, I still think there was good performances out here. And like I said, I mean, it says right below that the red card, I think defensively, yeah, this team was sound in the first half, and the red card. I mean, it's unfortunate, and you had said too that Makhanya is going to mess up at some point here, and he had a play in the second half, I believe it was too, where he was on the ball up in the North Texas defensive half of defensive half of the field, and I don't know what he does. Like, he completely gets dribbled around. He was on the ball and then he loses it before you know, and it's like, what is going on here, Makhanya? And fans are like, well, when you look at the first team, why isn't Makhanya playing over Nathan Harriel, who's not a center back? And Jim Curtin would always say, he's a young player and he's making mistakes in training that you just can't make at the professional level. And I feel like he gets away with a lot of mistakes with the second team and got punished for a huge mistake here to get the red card. And if I could, and if I wasn't afraid of getting the stream brought down, I would definitely play the clip for people to see in case you guys didn't watch this game. And if not, I'm sure, Jose, you probably posted the red card on your Twitter. I know I posted it on my Twitter. So, you guys can check out those if you guys want to see the red cards. And when I come out with a article tomorrow on Substack, I'll be sure to include that. But yeah, I think it's harsh that some fans are probably going to point to, Makhanya is so bad that this red card changed everything, where I just don't think, and I just actually noticed that I spelled minute wrong on the little ticker. But that's what we get. We're trying to put the show together so quickly.
Now, I think the Olwethu red card, sure, of course, had an effect on the match, but was it as drastic as maybe people might make it out to be once the result really sits in and people start to digest it tomorrow at some point? I don't know. maybe not, and or maybe so. But it has been a very tough season for Olwethu, right? In terms of um, not still not seeing any minutes with the first team, still earning more money than some senior team players who play over 1,500, nearly 2,000 minutes for the senior team. And this guy's still not making it or even finding his way to actually touching the field outside of warming up on some random games. So, for what it's worth, but in terms of Pierre, I think I used the right word at the first half, and I'm glad I used it. Near perfect game. That foul on Farmington there that led to the free kick, just completely unnecessary because the guy was going sideways. It wasn't going to turn to do anything in terms of shooting. So unfortunate. Maybe Farmington sold it far better than it should have, and whatever. But nonetheless, I think this was also, for as much as we're saying that this was disappointing and it was tough and fans are going off in terms of, it's the Union way, losing, choking, bottling, whatever, verb you want to use. It's a great learning experience for these guys in terms of the mistakes that they just cannot make when it matters most, which is championship games. And obviously this league and both MLS Next Pro and MLS are unique that, most points in a league doesn't get you a trophy or a championship per se. So this is, again, just a really, really, really interesting learning experience that I think will actually spill over into Monday's end of season press conference in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I hope. We talked about it last night. Unfortunately, you won't be there because of work. And I do have a feeling that a lot of people are going to show up for this end of the season press conference. Of course, it's going to be heavily focused on Jim Curtin, and you'll get people that don't typically come to press conferences showing up. I would be shocked if the Philadelphia media, like the TV stations and whatnot, aren't at the press conference. I'm sure people are bigger outlets are going to show up for this just because, it's a big deal that Jim Curtin got fired. But, a lot of questions should be asked, and especially about the second team, maybe shakeups coming, maybe not coming. And hopefully, I get a chance to ask more than one question because, like I said, I think most of these people showing up are going to talk about, Jim Curtin being gone. What's the future look like with Jim Curtin? But to try to turn this around into a little bit of a positive, because it is 12:03 at night. Jose has to catch a flight, I guess technically today now, and neither one of us want to go an hour and 25 minutes long, however long we went last night. I don't want to make this too long of a show, but I do want to focus on your tweet. Hopefully it pulled up here. You announced this after the U.S. Youth National Team announced, and that is that a whole bunch of Union players, Union 2, Union players have got caught up, that being Andrew Rick, Neil Pierre, CJ Olney, and David Vazquez have been selected to participate in the upcoming US U19 training camp in West Palm Beach, Florida. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, we're talking about how this season was really, well, this game was disappointing that they blew a 2-0 lead. But if you look at the season as a whole, there's a lot of positives to take away from it. And I think just a progression from Andrew Rick. I mean, this is a guy who started getting, correct me if I'm wrong, started getting constant call-ups this season with the youth national teams. We started seeing Neil Pierre just get called up to higher levels. CJ Olney started getting more call-ups. David Vazquez has been getting call-ups the last couple of years. Frankie Westfield got his first call-up this season. Kevin Sullivan continues to play up at a higher level. So there are players in this Union 2 team that have continued to earn call-ups with the U.S. Youth National Team because of their successful seasons, just because they're successful players. And because of that, I still think that, yeah, as disappointing as this night was, that you can take a look, there's some players on this roster that could contribute for the first team, that should, in my opinion, contribute for the first team, that, Jim Curtin talked about, graduating. Marlon LeBlanc talked about graduating. We saw it with Jesus Boynan. We saw it with Jeremy Raffanello. We saw it with Quinn Sullivan. Chris Donovan was signed as a Union 2 player, impressed so well that they gave him a first-team contract. And, yeah, I know occasionally he spends time with the second team, but he was up with the first team more than he was the second team. And so, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to celebrate with the good that happened, and to see these four guys get called up for a U19 training camp in West Palm Beach, Florida, it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I mean, it's again, as Marlon talks about progression, and God, I wrote his quote briefly, talking about players seeing them grow and learn, defying odds as one of the youngest, if not the youngest roster in MLS Next Pro. This is what it leads to, right? In terms of having these guys take the next step, whether it's as consistent national team players moving up a few levels in terms of age group, or finding their way to the very, very first call up. Meaning, Frankie Westfield is a late bloomer per se in the youth national team sort of a standard, coming in at the under 20s. Unfortunately, he didn't get a call up for this November camp, but nonetheless, having gotten that this season is sort of the goal that this league has, right? Which is about progression and development. And sure, the winning of a trophy is actually, also important, but nonetheless, this is what it's all about. And as I know we're going to get to this clip in a little bit, but like it's as you continue to progress and progress well, winning happens. They're in tandem. They're aligned. So does the ambition for this team to continue to advance and win things. So this is part of it. And it's so exciting to think that all of this talent is in Philadelphia. It's just, how do the Union bubble it up to actually be used in the first team? And when it's time for it to launch to the next step, how do they do that gracefully while also packing in the next level of talent or the next generation of talent? So I couldn't be any happier in terms of this myself.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had talked, I think, a couple weeks ago, months ago. I don't know. We talk all the time. Where it is crazy when you look at all the players that the Union have had over the years that have got caught up to the youth national team during their time here in the Union's organization, whether that be at the academy level, whether it be during the Bethlehem Steel days, or as a first team player with the Union, and it continues to happen, and I'm sure it's going to continue to happen. Here's a good transition since we're on it. From Valerie, she says, speaking of United States men's national team, is when's Matt Freese going to get his call up? It's a good question. I think Zach Steffen should never see the field ever again. How this guy continued to get called up when Matt Freese, I think, arguably was a top 3 goalkeeper in MLS. I know that went to Kalina, but actually Matt Freese didn't even make it into the top 3 finalists for goalkeeper of the year, which is shocking with how well he played for New York City this season. I thought that he was probably their MVP, and some fans had said, man, what if we would have kept a hold of Matt Freese when Andre Blake was hurt this season? It's like, man, like this guy just needed to go and just play constantly. I mean, he wasn't progressing anymore. We were talking about graduating from Union 2. Like Matt Freese had been done with Union 2. Like there was nothing more that he could do down there. And you had talked about this before. I talked about it on the show before, where, what's the future hold for somebody like Andrew Rick, where, does he start to have a little bit of a Matt Freese situation where, he's probably a little bit too good for Union 2. And yeah, I mean, getting him playing time is great and everything, but you want to see playing against higher competition. And so I don't know, did the Union potentially loan him out to a USL championship squad next season? That's to be determined. And it's not a discussion for tonight, but yeah, I do feel for Matt Freese. Matt Freese should definitely be getting a call up for the national team. Pochettino, I mean, he should be calling all these guys, and you're less than 2 years away from a World Cup, and Poch has a tough job at hand to try to see as many players as he can see possible. And yeah, the U.S. struggle with not playing against good high level competition because of playing in CONCACAF and everything. And so it's like when the World Cup comes and everything, we saw this past World Cup where, yeah, playing against CONCACAF, beating up on CONCACAF, when you play against European teams, it costs you in the end. But yeah, Matt Freese, I agree, Valerie, that he should get called up. So as we begin to wrap it up, there's one more thing I want to play, Jose. And if there's anything you want to add, if there's anything that we didn't discuss, yeah, feel free to. But that is, what is next?
I just saw the free kick goal. Holy smokes, that was not good.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah.
Well, I saw it from the back. North Texas posted the video from Andrew Rick's back.
Yeah.
And it's just
the first goal that they conceded. Yeah.
not a good. I don't know.
Yeah. Andrew Rick's got to do better there. And Marlon said as much too. I mean, he was not happy with that first goal conceded, but as it says at the bottom there, what is next for Marlon LeBlanc? And so Jose asked Marlon that after his press conference, and yeah, he gave us a 4 minute and 7 second answer. So Jose and I are going to step away for 4 minutes and 7 seconds. And this is a very, very insightful answer that Marlon gave. And I appreciate him giving this answer to your question. And you really made him think. And he said, give me a week and then maybe I can give you a better answer. But nonetheless, here's Marlon LeBlanc on what's next for his future.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what's next. I could obviously everything that's happened back home, I thought and rehearsed of an answer that would somewhat come off being authentic, but I think that would not be authentic for me to just make something up and say I haven't thought about it, because it's out there, right? And I've heard my name bandied about. But look, I don't know what's next. I didn't know what's next when I came to Philadelphia. I certainly didn't come to Philadelphia to be a first team coach. And I didn't actually come to Philadelphia to be a second team coach. I came to Philadelphia for my family. They were here and I was coaching in college, and we were too far apart. My son was part of this project here. And if he was going to develop in this project as a professional footballer for the Union, I thought he would have a better chance doing it if I were with him as his father and keeping that intact. That was my ambition for coming here. I think my ambition obviously evolved as I began to invest time in the Paxton Aronsons and Jack McGlynn's and Nate Harrells, Quinn Sullivan's, all those guys of the world. And it became a lot bigger. And the ambition changed a little bit. Now, as we got to make this run in these playoffs, obviously the ambition became about winning. And I've told you guys over and over and over again, it was always about development, and that we would learn how to win through that development. And we did. As we got to the Eastern Conference Championship and we won that, we wanted to win this one too. And so the ambition obviously has evolved into a whole lot more than what it originally was when I came here. One of the things that I'm fairly confident in is that this project can only continue to go forward from here. I think regardless of whether I'm a part of it or not moving forward, the old coach's adage of leave it better than you found it. I'd like to think that we've done that. I'd like to think that all those aforementioned names, all the ones in between, and now you see the CJ Olneys, the Davi Vazquez, the Neil Pierres of the world who are the next ones up, that literally everybody in this organization should be super excited about, because not only are you getting a development project of young players coming in, you're getting young players that know how to win trophies, whether it was playoffs at MLS Next Level or GA Cups. They've taken the next step now, and they've gone and won the next by going out and winning an Eastern Conference trophy. Are they going to be ready to come in and be first team starters next year? No, they're still young players. They're still got growth to do, but they're coming in at a higher point than maybe some of the other guys have prior to joining the first team. And so here I am talking about them again, and I'm kind of losing myself in your question, and I apologize for that. But it's hard for me to really think about myself at this moment, because I know they've got a group of guys in there that are hurting. And like I said, give me a week or so, and maybe I'll have a more articulate answer to give you. And I apologize for kind of rambling on, but I'm proud of the work that's been done here. I'm proud of the staff and their development as well. If you were to have, like I said, been able to be a fly on the wall on what we've gone through, ups and downs and ins and outs, and I think you'd be even more surprised. But I can't do anything more right now than hail a heck of a lot of praise on, again, the youngest group in this league and the impressive show that they put on tonight for as long as they possibly could, and they're to be congratulated for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a terrific effort there by the group. And again, and I know I'm repeating myself, and yeah, it was such a disappointing second half of this game. But a season as a whole, Marlon talked about it. We talked about it on the show tonight, how they exceeded expectations, and one game shouldn't define the season as a whole. And man, on one hand, I feel bad that these games, MLS Next Pro games, have been during the week, 4 or 5 o'clock, and I couldn't get down to games more than what I did. And I do kind of wish that the Union first team games would be earlier in the day, and then the second team games would be later that same night, like they used to do with Bethlehem Steel. And yeah, I wish I could have covered this team a lot longer than when I came on board and everything. And shout out to Kyle and Jilly and Olney for being there pretty much every single game. I mean, down there tonight for the final in North Texas, and did a terrific job all season long covering the second team. But I talked to Nick, I talked to Marcus at practice on Saturday, and both of them just had such high praise for the leadership of Marlon LeBlanc, where he is the reason for that locker room. He sets the culture of this club. That's why the locker room is so tight knit. And you heard Marlon just kind of shy away from your question, and apologize for that, because he was still wanting to give praise to these players. And you can tell he knows how much that these guys wanted to win this final, and it sucks. And he said it there that, look, losing tonight's going to help them better for the first team. And I do believe him. This team, Kevin Sullivan, I think, talked about it, where they've won Generation Adidas Cups. I mean, they were the best of the best in their age groups and everything. They've won stuff in the past, but, tonight was probably the biggest trophy that any of them could have won in their young careers, and they fall short and blowing a 2-0 lead. I mean, that's going to stick with them for a while. But you know what? Their careers are so, it's going to be so long, and they have a lot of longevity in their career. And one game, one night's not going to define them, and I think this is only going to make them bigger. And again, we were talking about just players getting called up. I think there's a lot of players on this roster that can help contribute next season, and I hope they get opportunities. And we'll find out what exactly led to Jim Curtin's firing. I know Jeff Carlisle of ESPN had a couple sources go on record for him, and he wrote a nice article on ESPN. I'll leave it in the show description if you guys haven't read that. But yeah, I mean, one source had told Jeff Carlisle it's because of not giving younger players a chance, not playing some of the signings that Ernst Tanner had made. And whether you want to believe that or not, that's what Jeff Carlisle was told, and I'm sure Ernst Tanner will be asked about that. But look, you look at a team like Columbus Crew, right, Jose, where and I know I'm talking a while here, I apologize for that, but a team like Columbus, and you and I think, are big admirers of them, how they set that roster together, put it together, where it's college guys, where it's MLS Next Pro guys. And look at them. Yes, their season didn't go the way that they wanted this year in the playoffs. And you can say the same thing for FC Cincinnati and Miami too, getting knocked out by Atlanta. But that is the way the Union should put this roster together. Look, they believed in the MLS Next Pro guys, and they're a big reason why they made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final against Pachuca, ultimately losing this season. They're a reason why they went to the final last season in MLS against LAFC and won against LAFC. And so, yeah, I do think there's players on this roster that can help contribute. And I think I'm pulling a Marlon here, shying away from what he said. But, I mean, a really, really good, insightful answer there to your question by Marlon LeBlanc.
Yeah, I think this roster is full of talent that can contribute, not 3 years down the line, not 2 years down the line, but immediately next year, whether it's having a role that's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, or whether it's a role of playing more significant of a 65th minute sub that plays just about the entirety of a second half. There are players there. And I think should they have a signature on paper that just hasn't been announced, like a Neil Pierre, right? Of like someone who.
Well, he kind of hinted at it there in that
a little bit, yeah. So that's a player that could step in right away, and they would want to secure right away and play. CJ Olney. Listen, they're not in any shortage of talent that could potentially play here or play elsewhere. May it be through a loan or genuinely just trading away. If anything, you could argue that there is a backlog of now there's a huge pile up of talent that just, how do you divvy up 90 minutes across all of these bodies week in and week out? And what's even more interesting, Todd, and I wasn't thinking about this yesterday when we spoke or even in the last couple of days, but in a way, next year, there are going to be fewer games. And I say that knowing that or not knowing what's going to happen with the US Open Cup and MLS this coming year. But without the CONCACAF Champions Cup, that's immediately, at the very least, one home game with the home and away legs. Never mind how well the Union have done in the past of at least securing 2 to 3 games in terms of that competition. And I know there's rumors and rumblings about what Leagues Cup can look like next year. That's another thing that's up in the air. So as you think about all of this talent, how do you start dishing out time? And that's of the essence for a roster that's just full of young talent. So I feel for Marlon. I feel for the organization, but this moment was coming, or this juncture in its history was coming, and it's just interesting that it's just happening when we're all around, right? It feels weird that after 15 years, it's fine. This is the year where this much change is happening all at once. But maybe it'll stay. Sorry, my dog's going bananas right now. She just suddenly caught her second wind. I don't know what's going on with her.
Wants to play.
But yeah, I wish you and everybody who's going to be at the press conference on Monday luck and strength and courage, because it's not easy. As many people that like to complain about how we ask questions or what we don't ask or what we do ask, I don't think they realize how difficult it can be to ask these questions and in a thoughtful way, even more so on Monday when the owner of the team's going to be there. So I wish you all the best of luck and courage in putting together a helpful and convincing end of season press conference, questioning or whatever line of questions.
Yeah, I hope this thing honestly goes for an hour. Like, I feel like that would be fitting, but something tells me that's probably not going to happen, but it should. I think, was I listening to Colorado's last year? Colorado's went close to an hour, I think, last season for them. Because if you remember how the season went, they had fired, Robin Fraser, the head coach. And
Right.
The year prior, they had won the Western Conference and had a terrific regular season. And then they fired him the very next season. And so they don't get a lot of coverage out there, and they had people show up and that have been covering the team all season long, and their PR staff had let the media, the very few of them, pretty much take that press conference for an hour. So I'm fully expecting a lot of people to show up. Like I said, not people that are typically at the press conferences week in, week out, and I just hope that we get to ask more than one question. We know that some of those bigger dogs that write for the bigger outlets and everything, they get their fair share of questions in. But for somebody like me, I hope that I get more than one question in. But I don't really
Folks
have
on Zoom.
I didn't even think about that, right? I mean, forget about that. Like, I don't even think those people are going to get a chance. I absolutely cannot see that. But disappointing how the night went for Union too. I mean, what a season they had, and I think, yes, winning a second trophy would have been terrific. Don't let it be lost that look, they did win the Eastern Conference final last week against Columbus, and nobody had them making this far in the playoffs. Coming into the playoffs this year, they didn't win a single game. And yes, I know MLS Next Pro is fairly young. What, 3 years? 3 years young now. But yeah, I mean, the first 2 years, you need to make the playoffs, don't win a single playoff game. This year, they win 3 straight and unfortunately fall short in the final tonight against North Texas, or last night. But overall, I think it's a successful season they had, and a lot of promising players on this team. And obviously, the U.S. Federation believes so too, with the constant call-ups they keep having with these young players for the Union second team. But I really don't want to go over an hour, Jose, get close to an hour. I don't have really much else to say. Do you have anything else to bring up, mention?
No, not really. The only thing I'll say is, this is officially a wrap, and I guess Monday will be officially a wrap on Union coverage for this league year. We'll have some content, I'm sure, as we think how to collaborate, or we continue to support one another in terms of you helping me produce stuff or me helping you, however I can help in a way. But stay tuned for that type of stuff. I'm thinking of some older players, or I should say players of years past that are no longer with the team, maybe coming on and just having some chats and get some opinions. But if you're looking for a team to cheer now that Philadelphia as a whole is out, Rhode Island FC doing an incredible. Oh yeah, gosh, thank you, Mark Elkenberg. Yeah, we have a draft to talk about, as well as some other movement potentially not lost on me. But our Rhode Island FC first year team, two former coaches, one from Union 2, Carl Spratt, and Dave McKay, who used to be one of Jim's assistants at one point, currently with the first year team, just advanced today over Danny Cruz's Louisville.
You had been 10 straight years, right? In the final?
Yep. Rhode Island advances a first-year newcomer to the Eastern Conference. Was it the Eastern? I guess it is. That would be the Eastern Conference final of USL Championship. So, really exciting team to follow. Give them a watch. ESPN tends to have all those games. So, if you can, by all means, watch them, support them. Carl and Dave, an incredible roster. I was able to spend a day and a half, 2 days with them over the summer, and it was a blast. A really exciting team to watch.
Brand new stadium coming next year too, right?
Brand new facility. They were and I think it's worked out for them in a good way. They were such a low seed that there's no way they host anything during the playoffs, and that's good because they don't have their own team, their own stadium. So they let the lease go at the college that they were at. So watch them. I'm sure that whether it's out now, and we've just been so busy for 47 minutes plus a game. I don't know when their next match would be, but I would think that they keep the cadence on us every Saturday at this point until there's a champion.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for me, I've been telling you guys the last couple of episodes that I'm going to get the top 10 saves video out and the top 10 goals. It's definitely going to come. I don't know. I mean, depending on how this end of the season press conference can go, I mean, I might try to milk it into multiple podcast episodes, depending on how long it is, honestly. Will we go live for that? Maybe. But I definitely want to get a article out for recapping tonight's game against North Texas. I'm sure everybody and their brother will have articles out for the end of the season press conference, and we'll still find ways to do live streams and get you guys involved. And have Jose obviously still show up. I'm sure Kyle and Jillian will pop up here some point, and there's a lot to talk about in this off season. So yeah, just because the season's now officially come to a halt for both the first team and the second team, it's a lot of content to still be produced from both Jose and I, and just wherever else you get your content. That's a good thing. I mean, there's just so many people doing a wonderful job covering this team, whether it's written, whether it's videos, whether it's audio. I mean, you guys are covered, and you definitely have your choices. And for whatever reason, you guys seem to cling to Jose and I a lot. So yeah, we appreciate that. Just all the support you guys give, because look, 76 people are watching this live. I definitely couldn't pull that on my own. And so I credit that to Jose. That's the Jose Nunez effect. So I thank that. I thank you guys. And Valerie, who else? Mark was in here. Did I miss anybody else? I think you guys were the most. Joseph. Yeah, you were the three commenting, but yeah, we have 76 people watching. Didn't get close to 95 live last night, which is fine. I totally get it. It's 12:30 at night here, and you guys are a bunch of sickos watching us talk about a second team losing a final. But we appreciate you guys. And as always, where can people find you, Jose, on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Jose R Nunez 91. Have a Substack. It's all linked in my profile, but huge thank you to everybody and Todd for hosting these. I know it's late at night, and it's a disappointing night, but nonetheless, we wanted to show the respect and and admiration for not just the coaching, but the players. So kudos to them. Unfortunate ending, but it all sort of restarts for this organization in February.
Absolutely. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. YouTube channel, youtube.com/FreeKickPod. The Substack, thefreekick.substack.com. And as always, thank you guys for the support. You guys are a bunch of sickers. We love it. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.